everybody. Welcome to the Hallmarkies podcast. We're really excited today. We have a special interview for you today. We're talking with actor Dion Johnstone, and I'm film critic Rachel Wagner. And Dion, thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
Oh, a pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, so what we've been doing these last few months when we have a interview, when we have a guest, is we've been just asking, how have you been doing? How have you been handling this time of quarantine? What's it been like for you? Yeah, it's been a crazy time.
Oh, yeah. You're actually catching me at a really interesting time in my life. I'm about to become a dad.
Oh my gosh.
And yeah, we're expecting a baby boy within the next 12 days.
Yeah.
So that's really, really exciting stuff. We've been
both
prepping our home, but we realized that we were going to need a bigger space just to have room for our child to grow into, and also have room for us, since so much of our lives are becoming virtual, to make sure that we always have a studio space where we can do self-tape auditions and Zoom readings and such. So we found a new location. So we're also in the midst of packing up our lives and getting ready for a September move and bringing a new baby into our world. And it's a lot that's going on. It's all exciting, and a little bit nerve-wracking, but all in a good way.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. Well, if you have to leave the interview early for an emergency, I'll understand.
We'll know.
So this is your first child?
This is our first child. Yeah.
That's great. Have you decided on a name?
We have. His name is going to be Kylan.
Oh, cute.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah. So we searched for quite a while. We wanted a name that was interesting and unique, and when we hit upon it, we were like, oh, that just feels right. But we'll just hang on to it and see if something comes up and in the interim. But no, that's really stuck. So
it's like unique without being like ridiculous.
Exactly.
You know?
Right. Yeah.
Like it's a normal name that you can feel.
Yeah.
When you don't see it. That's great. Oh, that's so fun. When you have a newborn, I mean, I know they're a lot of work, but also just that's just such a precious time. It's gonna be.
Oh man.
Oh.
You get to live your own life, but through their eyes. And going through all of those challenges and all of those stages again, and with a completely different perspective. We're just really looking forward to that.
When you see Sweet Magnolias and all the drama of teenage years, so you've got
right.
You think, oh no.
Right, that's coming down the pipes.
That's really good. So aside from getting ready for the baby, have you been doing any quarantine baking, or kind of things have you been binge watching anything, or
we've been binge watching on Netflix a series called Greenleaf, which I'd never seen before, and it's just a wonderful show. We just finished the end of the third season, so we're madly awaiting the fourth season for whenever that drops. But it's a wonderful show. And it's about a black family who runs a parish. So it's a black pastor family, and their lives and their children and all of that and their interactions. And it's just so wonderful because I never really grew up with that, seeing black characters in prominent roles. Aside from watching the Cosby Show on mainstream television, but it's just so wonderful because you sometimes in what I've witnessed in mainstream programming in media, black characters are either side characters or they're very limited roles in how you see them. And so even as an actor growing up, there were very limited representations of what I could be. But on a show like this, you really see how you can be anything. You can be the villain, you can be the good guy. You've got as much complexity as any other show. So that's been a real treat to sit back and binge watch.
That's great. Yeah, I mean that or they're kind of, I mean you get things like the Medea kind of thing, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with it, but it's nice when you can get maybe a little bit more complex.
Mm-hmm.
than that. I mean, comedy has its place, but it's nice when you get
Absolutely.
a little bit more, or at least have some variety.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Know that there's all kinds of genres that
Yeah.
can be done, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's great. Yeah, that's been nice this last couple of months. I feel like that discussion is kind of starting to get a little bit more footing, and companies are committing themselves to having more diversity, and because it just makes everything better. You tell more stories, it improves. It's not just, obviously it's important to that group, but it makes it better for everybody.
I agree. I
Yeah.
agree. Yeah. Yeah.
Definitely. How did you become an actor? How did you get into acting?
Well, you know, when I was a kid, I think it was a transition from comic books into acting. I
Mm-hmm.
loved superheroes, and the comics that I read also dealt a lot with Greek mythology. And so I fell in love with Greek mythology. And when I was quite young, my parents were concerned that I was spending so much time with comic books that I wouldn't get into classic literature. And so, as a bridge, they found at a flea market these old comic books that were done in the 50s and 60s called Classics Illustrated. And they had comic versions of Julius Caesar and Three Musketeers, and all of the great classic plays and books. So they got me a copy of Julius Caesar, and that was my first introduction into Shakespeare. And so later, when I was in high school and we started learning about Shakespeare, I already had an innate understanding of the language and the rhythms and the storylines and imagery.
Mm-hmm.
And so that led me to wanting to become an actor. And for me, I ended up training classically, so I've done quite a lot of Shakespeare, and I attribute all of that to my early childhood of all things, reading comic books.
That's really interesting. Well, there is a
Yeah.
certain degree of kind of gravitas and drama to your comic books that I can kind of see how that could happen. They're very
Mm-hmm.
big and theatrical and kind of a thing.
Oh yeah,
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 so
exactly.
that's interesting.
And when you're dealing with superhero, I mean, we're seeing it right now because comic books have transcended its genre and moved into the film and television industry.
Mm-hmm.
So now, as a kid who grew up with these stories, I'm getting to see them represented, and I can actually have the potential of playing them on
Mm-hmm.
screen, which
Yeah,
were only dreams, when I was a kid.
sure.
But also, the form of a comic book is very much like a television show. It's very episodic in its sense, and you have your
Mm-hmm.
close-ups and medium, shots and wide shots, and all of the same kind of, it's just an artist who's creating all of those
Mm-hmm.
different shots that a DOP, a cinematographer would create on the day. So it's a very similar kind of medium. So it's a
Yeah.
natural
Yeah.
transition, I think.
What did you think of Black Panther? Did you?
Oh, I loved Black
Yeah,
Panther.
yeah, it's
Yeah,
so good.
wonderful film. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm very much looking forward to the next
Me too.
installment of that. Yeah.
Yeah, I thought it was so good because both of the two main characters, your hero and your villain, had such careful character motivation. Like, you understood where both of them were coming from. It made sense given their upbringing and who they were, and so you were invested in both of them, which I thought is hard to do,
Hmm.
especially
Yeah.
Marvel. Yeah,
Yeah. And
very
when you
cool.
really see how good and evil are almost opposite sides of the same coin, what makes one person evil and one person good, it's quite often their point of view, you know.
Right.
So
Yeah.
that spiritual complexity I really loved
Hmm.
about the film.
Me too.
Hmm.
Yep. Do you remember your first role that you ever got? What was
My
that like?
first role, I would say, I mean, I played a few like smaller roles when I was a kid. So like in elementary, I remember a school tour coming through, and they chose kids from the audience who would get to be a part of the play. So I had my first on stage experience when I was quite young. But my first real role was in high school, when I was in high school drama. And that's when I decided I
Hmm.
want to take this acting thing seriously.
Yeah.
And I played Johnny in a high school production of The Outsiders,
Oh.
and that was my first. Yeah, that was a
Yeah.
lot of fun.
when you got your first like role in television, did you have like that thing you do freak out moment? You were so
Oh my
excited.
God. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. It was on Stargate. Stargate was my first film and television role that I ever did.
Uh-huh.
And I remember feeling like, oh my God, if I never do this again, like I've actually done it. This is a show that I've watched on TV. I couldn't believe it. And they were so gracious on the set because they knew it was my first time, and they'd been sort of scouting me, through the
Uh-huh.
theatrical work that I've been doing. So they knew I had the ability to do it, but I just didn't understand yet the set protocol. So they invited me to watch the filming of an episode just prior to mine. And they
Uh-huh.
said, you can go wherever you want, talk to whoever you want. The only thing that we request is when we're filming that you don't walk in the eye line of the actors who are acting, because if they're doing a close up and you kind of move in the background, you'll cause their eyes to shift. So as long as you just adhere to that, this set is your oyster. Make yourself at home. And I was just like, oh my God, that's just amazing. So Stargate was the first production that really took me under their wing and did quite a lot to give me screen time and
Mm-hmm.
confidence and support.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's really nice that they did that. They have a welcoming set. What did your family think that when you started to pursue acting? They pretty supportive or?
They were very
Yeah.
supportive. I
Yeah.
think, I mean, my mom and dad at the time, I mean, they'd watched me. By that point, I'd already performed at the Stratford Festival on stage doing Shakespeare. So they'd
Mm-hmm.
been watching my growth over the years. So, my parents, I think it was very natural for that to happen.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm pretty sure for them, it wasn't a surprise. But also, I think on another level, I think it probably was comforting as well too, because I know they were always concerned about, well, you're pursuing this acting thing, and we know you're committed to it, and we understand it, and we see it as business, but we're just always worried. We just want to know that you're going to be secure in your life, and it seems like such an insecure profession. But I'd always been finding ways of making it work and finding ways of paying my bills and evolving as time went along. So
Mm-hmm.
I think, if anything, it may have been an additional sense of security for them,
Mm-hmm.
but probably not a surprise to them
Yeah.
that I'd finally achieved that.
That's great. So you were in a family Christmas gift
Yes.
for Hallmark,
Mm-hmm.
and this last holiday season, Patti LaBelle, Holly Robinson Pete. What
Mm-hmm.
was that like to shoot with them and shoot the film? That
Oh,
must have been amazing.
it was incredible.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, this was a dream project of Holly Robinson Pete's.
Mm-hmm.
And she knows Patti LaBelle quite well. She sang at her wedding, in fact.
Oh.
And yeah, and so she had seen Patti in a previous Hallmark film, and um, but her role was more of a cameo in it, and she didn't even sing in it. So she thought, no, we got to have more than this. Like,
Yeah.
we've got to make her a much larger character, and she has to sing.
Yeah,
You
I
know?
was so so glad because in that film Christmas Everlasting, literally she opened a door. She was like, "Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
welcome to my home." Open door, and that's it. That's all.
And
They
that's
advertised Patti LaBelle,
yeah,
and she
yeah,
didn't sing, and she opened a door, and I'm like, "What?
yes,
What is
yes.
this?" And so I was so excited. And also the other thing too that made me excited is that I the you often see that these starlets will want to sing "Oh Holy Night" in Christmas movies, and I
Mm-hmm.
always warn against it because it's a really hard song. It's very
Yeah.
difficult. It goes a whole octave. It's a tough, long song, and uh,
Mm-hmm.
and so it was kind of gratifying that here you have somebody who can actually sing it. She has the
Yeah.
pipes. She's got
Yeah.
it. Finally.
Yeah.
It's like,
and
okay.
and and almost reinvent it, sing it in a way
Yeah.
that you haven't heard it yet.
Right. Yeah.
It was just the day we only had Patti LaBelle for 4 days of shooting, so it was
Okay.
a very intense schedule to get it. And one of those days, I believe, was devoted to her recording the song
Uh-huh.
in studio as well too. So we
Right.
maybe only had 3 literal shooting days with her. So that
Wow.
was a compressed amount of time. But when the day came to do the concert shoot, and just the anticipation in the room of hearing her sing this.
Oh my
And
gosh.
was just amazing. And then being able to introduce her to everybody. I mean, I'm introducing her character, but I mean, come on, I'm introducing Patti LaBelle to everybody watching that. Was just amazing. And when she sang the rendition, just sent like shivers through your body. It was just so beautiful and moving.
Yeah. Oh,
You know,
I can't even imagine. It
just
was to watch it, let alone being there in the room, listening to it must have been amazing.
yeah,
Very
yeah.
surreal.
And she was so gracious. I mean, her ability to make you feel like in no time at all that you have history with each other,
Mm-hmm.
to welcome you in as a family member, was extraordinary. And I noticed that she was like that with everybody who came up to her. Always, open to take photos, always having kind words to say, and just made
Mm-hmm.
her presence very warm and accessible. And it really affected the energy on the set
Mm-hmm.
on those days that we had her. So that was a wonderful experience. And Holly as a co-lead was just a dream
Mm-hmm.
to work with. I mean, it was just a no-brainer, so easy.
Mm-hmm.
I was amazed at how she's, I mean, she had pitched this production, and
Mm-hmm.
so she's sort of in a co-production, co-producer role. She also has her own foundation that she's running on the side.
I
She has a
know.
family that she's touching base with, and we're getting script edits like on a
Amazing.
daily basis as well too.
Yeah.
And just watching her like juggle all of this as if it was nothing, and never losing her cool, and always staying relaxed, and always fun to work with.
That's what
Taught
we
me a
like.
lot about the kind of
Yeah.
lead that I want to be.
That's what we like to hear of our queens of Hallmark.
Amen.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, I know. I don't know how she gets all of that done. Just raising that crop of kids would be enough, and she does so much. It's really, really, really impressive. And
It really is.
you also got to play a dad in that movie. You had a daughter,
Yeah, yeah.
and that must have been fun.
Oh yeah,
Cute little
yeah. It was a
girl.
lot of fun. Yes, yes.
Mm-hmm.
It's wild. I've been quite lucky to work with young actors
Mm-hmm.
in my career. Just prior to maybe only a year prior, I'd worked on a Nickelodeon show as well too, where I
Oh,
played a
okay.
dad to a crop of kids, and they just always blow my mind with their energy and professionalism and how smart they are.
Mm-hmm.
Like you come in thinking some idea of what kids are going to be like, and you go, no, these kids, their game is pretty smart.
Yeah.
And Melody was just a dream to work with.
Mm-hmm. So
Yeah,
cute.
a lot of fun.
When was it filmed?
We shot this in October
Oh, it's
of
pretty late.
2019. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So there
Wow.
was already, we shot a little bit in, well, a little bit of it was shot in Whistler and in Pemberton, which is where we
Mm-hmm.
do some of the outdoors. So there was snow that was just starting to fall. It wasn't like full, snowfalls or anything like that yet, but it wasn't in the heat of the summer, which was great. So, when you're wearing jackets and sweaters and gloves and all of that, quite often a lot of Hallmark films will be shot in the summer.
Yeah.
But we were quite lucky to have cooler weather for this.
That's nice. You don't have to pretend to be you don't have to be in winter coats and stuff in the middle of the summer like a lot of these have to do.
Pretending you're shivering when you're like sweating buckets.
It's going to be interesting to see because that's a pretty late start in October, but this year, I mean, it's going to be interesting to see how far they push it. I mean, you probably could have. They're probably going to be shoots starting in November.
Oh yeah.
For the December releases because they're so late in getting started this year. So and all the restrictions and everything too. So I'm very curious to see how it all play out.
I think we all are just going, how is this going to happen?
Yeah,
it's going to be a very interesting year of production.
It's just in every way. It's just it's been so weird. I mean, the whole experience has just been very surreal.
Yeah,
I think for all of us. But
Who would have thought that the world could just stop?
yeah,
Who would have thought? You
yeah.
know?
I mean, I just couldn't believe it. One more thing, closing, one more thing, and I think it was the right thing to do. But it was very surreal, very surreal. And then
Mm-hmm.
the fact that it's still going
They're
on.
still in it.
We still had we haven't had church yet. We had kind of a modified, slightly version of church at in a very small group
Mm-hmm.
uh church, but we haven't had like church.
Mm-hmm.
And on my other channel, I started in March, started doing Sunday devotionals with my
Mm.
friend, just to kind of have something spiritual once a week. And now we're almost on week 20 of doing that, and I'm just like, we never in a million years thought this was going to last 20 weeks. Well,
Oh yeah.
this was just going to be something we were doing for a couple of weeks while church was canceled, and it's still canceled. So we're still doing it. It's just been crazy. But
Wonder, what the next evolution is going to be.
yeah,
If it'll be like 3D goggles, and at least we can go to a virtual space that feels like
yeah,
we're in a church. You know,
right, yeah. I mean, I feel like Ready Player One is coming.
it's coming.
Yeah,
Yeah,
the Oasis it will be here before we know it. But
yeah.
so for Sweet Magnolias, we loved Sweet
Hmm.
Magnolias on this
Oh,
podcast.
wonderful.
We covered
Hmm.
it we did 2 special episodes covering Sweet Magnolias, season 1. And so
Hmm.
for Eric, we loved Eric. We thought he was great.
Oh,
And
nice, nice.
how did you end up with that role?
It's a bit of a crazy story. I Well, first of all, the showrunner and show creator of Sweet Magnolias, her name is Cheryl Anderson, and she created another series called Ties That Bind,
Mm.
which I shot in Vancouver, and I was one of the series leads on it, maybe 3 years ago, 3 to 4 years ago now. So we already have a working relationship, and I was given to understand after the fact that when they were creating Sweet Magnolias, they already had me in mind for this role of Eric. But at that time, I was doing my first my Broadway debut. I was
Oh.
playing a role in a production of King Lear,
Oh.
and so I was unavailable to read for the part. So they went about trying to cast and still couldn't find the right energy that they wanted for the role of Eric. And I believe one of the writers on the writing team happened to see an Instagram post that I had made, because we ended up closing our production of King Lear a little bit earlier than was predicted, and and he let Cheryl know about this, and that she went online and had a look and said, "Oh my God, the show's closed." So when I returned from New York to Toronto, I got a call from Sweet Magnolias production asking if I was interested and available, and if so, if I would put myself down on tape over the weekend for them. So I was like, oh my God, this is fantastic. So I had a look at the role and self-taped a number of scenes and sent it their way. And before the end of that following week, I had the role. And it was pretty quick. From the time that I got it, it was like, we're probably going to start shooting right away. So in the next couple of weeks, would you be prepared to fly out? And I said, yeah, I'm good. And in less than a week, they were like, could you be on a plane to start? I was like, oh my God, wow, here we go.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah. So,
That's great.
yeah, so it was and I remember when King Lear closed, it's always hard to close the show, and certainly being on Broadway, and this was happening with the Tonys, we're rolling out, and one of our actors was up for a Tony, and all of a sudden we were closing, and it was just like, oh, that's just such a hard feeling, but I had to remind myself, you've had the experience, so that's under your belt. But when one door closes, it just leaves room for another one to open. And little
Yeah.
did I know that it would be Sweet Magnolias, and so I feel like there was a beautiful energy out there in
Mm-hmm.
the stars, just kind of guiding my path and into a place that it was meant to be.
It's true. Sometimes we just have to trust that God knows what he's doing. And he's got a
Amen.
handle on
Amen.
things. It'll all work out in the
Yeah.
end. That's great.
Yeah.
Yeah. So did you do any kind of training at all in to prepare for playing a chef? Uh,
No. No. But what we had on set, the catering company that provided all of our meals for cast and crew, Laurent's Catering is what it's called, and the owner is Laurent Morchant, and he's an Atlanta-based caterer, and he acted as our on-set guide. So any scene that we had, and whatever we would be preparing, we would sort of block the scene, talk about what was necessary. In some cases, it was like written into the script what had to happen, and in other cases, it would be more like, okay, so we're here, we're in the middle of a lunch rush, and these are the kinds of meals that we might be having, and we would block the scene, have a discussion about what was needed, and then he would get to work on prepping all of those meals for us, and then he would coach us on how to, everything from the little things like how to properly cut vegetables without cutting yourself,
right, yeah,
to garnishing your plates, make sure the presentation looks good, to the flow of how the kitchen would work. And so we also had in the background, who were playing our ensemble of our kitchen staff. Almost all of them were actual chefs themselves as well too. So we could always connect and just talk with each other. Well, how would I be doing this? And would I take my gloves off for this? And what would happen here? And so it really very quickly started to feel like a real live, active kitchen, because we were bolstered with people around us who knew what they were doing.
Yeah.
So that was really cool.
Yeah, that is cool. That's very cool. At first, I thought that Eric was going to be set up as a love interest for Dana Sue. It seemed like, but he's just so like, so mindful and kind and towards her. But then I kind of wondered, is it Helen? But then it kind of didn't really it was left kind of ambivalent of who he who he was the love interest for. So I thought that was interesting. And what did you think about that kind of his interactions with Dana Sue, with Heather, with Helen?
That's really interesting to hear you say that, because I never felt that playing it. I felt for myself that in terms of Eric's attraction, it's to Helen. But my wife and I work together, and she's an actor as well too, and so we help each other prep the work that we're going to go and shoot. And there were a couple of scenes where she's like, no, like it just seems like you're really into Dana Sue here.
Yeah.
So like,
just
why are you
more at the
paying
beginning,
so much?
More at the beginning. But then it started to feel like, okay, he's interested in Helen. But then Helen had another love interest on the show. Ryan, I think his name was.
Ryan.
And so then I was like, well, maybe he's just a really amazing guy.
I think he's an amazing guy. I think one of his qualities is his loyalty, and the depth of the depth and quality of friendships that he wants to create, and certainly there is I think a very strong connection to Dana Sue, and I think an understanding that the people won't understand until you get to the latter part of the season, and probably won't understand until more development comes out, where we learn a bit more about where Eric is coming from and what his past has been.
Yeah.
But I think there are a few clues in terms of how Eric is able to recognize what's happening with Dana Sue, because it reflects a lot of what he's been through in his own life, and so his desire to protect her, to guard her privacy, it comes a lot from how protective he is of his own privacy and his own personal pains and struggles. And I think it was easy or it could be easy to misunderstand his caring and compassion for her, not yet knowing the full story of where things are heading at the beginning. But I think certainly by the end of the season, it becomes a bit more clear, certainly where his attraction lies versus where his friendship, his needs for friendship are, and where that will go, who knows?
Oh my gosh, so excited! And we had also your relationship with Isaac in the restaurant. He's like looking for his father. That part was a little bit it was almost like he was like, "Are you my mother? Are you my father? Are you my?" There was kind of like it was like every day. It was like he was just going up to me, "Hello, are you my mother? Are you my mother?"
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
but yeah, that was an interesting kind of dynamic as well. In the
Yes, yeah, very much a mentor,
mm-hmm,
older brother. I think from Eric's standpoint, I think for
mm-hmm,
Isaac, he may look at Eric as a father figure,
yeah,
or a big brother. When
yeah,
when he realizes that he's not his that Eric's not his father.
right,
Um, Certainly, I loved the dynamic that was just sort of naturally built working with Chris Medlin, who
mm-hmm,
plays Isaac. And we had both actually just come off Broadway, off of different productions, so we already had that connection as we started to get to know each other, and we have a lot of similarities in our own past history as well too, as we started to talk, and so the connection was really easy. Um, and
I
and I,
I think someday they need to do a musical episode of Sweet Magnolias, especially now that I know both of you have been on Broadway, and Brooke
yes,
Elliott and obviously Heather Headley
yes,
are like the best singers ever. And
amen,
oh,
yeah,
that would be
yeah.
amazing. I would
I
die. I love that so much.
would.
But it must have been incredible to work with Brooke Elliott and Heather Headley. I mean, the whole
Oh
cast,
yeah,
but
yeah,
you worked the
yes,
most, I think,
absolutely,
with them. Uh,
yeah.
I, I mean, I was.
Brooke was Heather Headley and I both share. We're both from Trinidad as well too,
Oh,
so
really?
that was
Okay.
cool for us.
Yeah.
Sharing and
Uh-huh.
learning about each other there. And she is such a light. It's unbelievable the
Oh,
humor and the wit that she brought to the set every single
yeah.
day. Just brightened up the
And I don't know
the
how much
entire.
TV she's done, but she did a great job. I thought she did a wonderful job in the
Oh
role.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, she was also shooting at the same time. It's a Chicago-based show, and I can't remember whether it's Chicago Med. I think it was Chicago Med
Oh, okay.
that she has a role on. So there were a few times where she was sort of still a little bit back and forth, kind of wrapping up her shooting there.
Okay.
But yeah, she's just remarkable. And Brooke too. Brooke, it's a friendship that we began to develop, and I just so hope we get another season to continue
Yeah.
building that, because I think so much of what you see on screen comes from the dynamic as well that we found with each other just as people. And one of the amazing things about Brooke, as we sort of talked about, because we had a lot of you deal with a lot of script changes on the go as you're shooting,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm the kind of person who likes to know as much as possible in advance. I like to know the whole episode, learn all of my scenes, just so that I can't be thrown.
Sure.
And Brooke was like, I used to be like that, but then I got Drop Dead Diva, and I
Yeah.
was doing constant and legal
Yeah.
like really complicated texts night after night after night, that I had to throw that out the window. And I found out that I wasn't working effectively by doing that. So I only worry about, I'll read the script, have a once over when we do the table read, but then I'm only focusing on the scenes that I shoot the next day, and I only learn my lines the night before I shoot. And I was like, how do you do that?
Yeah.
And when we would be working together in scenes on set, just what's so remarkable about that is it makes her present purely to the moment. She's, her character doesn't know what's happening in the next scene, or what's happening down the road. You only ever know
Uh-huh.
what's happening in your present moment. And
Right.
so her level of presence, just being real and there and not
Yeah.
thinking about anything else, really upped my game. It really
Mm-hmm.
challenged me to be even more present as an actor.
Yeah.
So that was really cool to learn
Oh,
and be a part of and witness.
that's great. I mean, I was a huge Drop Dead Diva fan. I
Oh yeah,
absolutely loved that show. Yeah, I mean, it was just so empowering to have a character like her, that as somebody that, is a plus size woman, like somebody like her who's so like strong and confident and funny and cute and just like
yeah,
great. I don't know. I just loved the show. I thought it was so funny, and I thought she was so good in it. And so yeah, I was so excited to see her in the show. I loved the casting of the whole show, and
hmm
I my I've wanted her to be in a Hallmark movie so bad. I would love for Brooke Elliott to do a Hallmark movie. So,
amen.
So,
Shout out to the Hallmark producers out there.
Yes,
right?
please hire Brooke Elliott.
Yes.
It would be amazing. But she just was so confident, and you don't tend to see that in plus size casting, which was it was awesome. And so yeah, one other thing I was so impressed by in the show is I thought that the teenage actors and the teenage roles were a lot more pronounced than I was expecting. Like they had real arcs, and they had real real arcs that had meat on the bone for these teenage actors, and I thought they all did so well with it. And I don't know, I was just really impressed with all of that, and whether it was I forget all the names, but Dana Sue's daughter was really good. I liked her whole story. I liked Kyle's story. I liked the older son's story, because he could have easily just been like, I forget his name, but he could have easily, Ty, I think it was Ty.
Ty, yeah.
He could have easily just been the sort of the jock character, the archetype, but he wasn't. He was a really interesting character. I thought that was really cool, that it made the show. I think what's cool about Sweet Magnolias is that it has something for everyone. I think that a lot of people might view it and think, oh, that's just a female show or whatever. But like, really, there's stuff to appeal to teenagers, there's stuff to appeal to people of all different interests and types, and men and women. And I don't know, I think that it's once people actually sit down and watch it, like, wow, this is a really good show.
I fully agree with that. And I agree that the casting of our younger cast is just, it couldn't be better. I mean, everyone is just amazing in their roles. And I also think that it's a strength of our writing team and of our showrunner, Sharon Anderson, because that's another thing I noticed in Ties That Bind, the first series that I'd done with her, is it also featured a young cast that was of equal weight to the adult cast. And it's just a reminder that in our lives, I mean, the younger generation is just as important as our adult generation. In fact, they're paving the way for our future. Sure. So to have that balance in the storylines, I think makes a richer story.
Yeah. So has it been fun to see like different people's responses and just the overall energetic response to the first season?
It's been awesome. Yeah. Oh my God, I feel so grateful to be a part of it, and seeing how much people are so invested in the relationships, and invested in who's telling, which team are you on? Are you on Team Eric, or are you on Team Ryan, or just Team Helen even?
Right. Yeah. Oh yeah.
Like it's just that level of passion and investment. You shoot something and you never know how it's going to turn out, and you hope for the best.
Sure.
And we certainly, as we were shooting, felt like we had something special. But you don't know how that's going to be once it's released. And to have had it like really quickly shoot to the Netflix top 10 in North America, both in the US and here in Canada, in Toronto, for several weeks to sit in that position was just unbelievable. So it's a real testament, not only to the production team who put all of this together, but to the fans who have really shown their love for the show. And so I'm very grateful.
That's great. Well, they now with all these teenagers, you got to get back to filming soon. They're gonna grow. They're gonna change. We gotta get back. Oh, we all want a season 2 so bad.
Amen. Yeah. It's going to be interesting to see how we come out of this pandemic and how it affects everything, because all shows are on hold, right?
Right.
And certainly when you're working with younger actors, everybody grows so quickly. So how as an industry we deal with that will be
I know they're
interesting.
just kind of things are just starting to get back. I think that I don't know about everything in Georgia, but I think that that Tyler Perry studio is getting back
Oh,
and
great.
in Georgia. I think I read that. So hopefully, cross fingers that, I mean, obviously the most important thing is that it's safe for our
Yeah.
actors. That's the most important thing, and cast and crew.
Mm-hmm.
But oh yeah, we gotta get going.
Yep. I feel
We
you.
gotta know what happens. That's what I was thinking, watching the Babysitters Club series that was also excellent on Netflix. I was like, they gotta get these girls filming soon because they're gonna grow
Right.
really
Yeah.
fast. We gotta get it. But really great. So before we close, we like to have some just silly questions. And since this is Christmas in July going on Hallmark Channel, we have some holiday themed questions for you. So put on your Santa hat, go back to December, and it's going to be fun. So first question, what is your favorite holiday drink?
Rum and eggnog.
Oh, okay. Good.
But the eggnog, I'm vegan and gluten-free, so I'm
Okay.
impossible during the holidays. So it's got to be one of those vegan eggnogs.
Okay.
But straight up
like
rum.
a soy or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, soy or an almond based or coconut based or yeah.
So what is your favorite holiday cookie or treat?
Now this is Christmas cake, and this is particularly Christmas cake made by my mother-in-law. It's a Jamaican Christmas cake that's just. No, it's not gluten-free, and this is the time where I break that and I just go, it's Christmas. I'm having your rum cake.
Yeah. Must be really good then if it's break the diet worthy. Great. What is your favorite Christmas song or carol?
I would say Drummer Boy.
Okay. Yeah. Cool. All right. Do you have a favorite classic Christmas movie that you watch every year?
It's the Alistair Sim Christmas Carol, the black and white version.
That's one of my favorites also.
Yeah. Love it.
Well, this probably answers that question, but if you had to pick Scrooge or the Grinch?
Scrooge.
All right. Clear lights or colored?
I love the clear lights. Yeah. I love the aura that they make around whatever they're decorating. And when you take photos, that glimmer that happens.
Me too.
Just love that. Yeah.
Would you rather be in a snowball fight or build a snowman?
Snowball fight.
Okay. Would you consider yourself a good gift wrapper or no?
I'm a good gift wrapper.
Yeah. Okay, good.
I do those hospital corners.
Oh.
Really, really, really tight edges.
Yeah. Good. All right. Last question. Do you have an ugly Christmas sweater?
No. But now that I'm going to be a dad,
you need one.
I'm going to need one.
Yeah. Part of the joys of parenthood is embarrassing your children as much as possible.
Right. Don't want to miss out on that.
That's great. Well, thank you so much. This was so much fun to get to talk with you. You're great.
You too.
And congratulations on your upcoming baby. That's just so exciting.
Thank you.
We're thrilled for you. And hopefully we hear the news soon about season 2 of Sweet Magnolias. So
my fingers are crossed with you.
Yes. Pray.
Yes.
So do you have social media that you'd like to share?
You can see me on Instagram at basically at Dion Johnstone.
Okay, great. And we'll have that in the description section so people can follow you on Instagram. And you can follow me at Rachel's Reviews, all of our social media, iTunes, YouTube, and on Rotten Tomatoes. So check that out. And you can follow the podcast, Hallmarkies Pod, on Hallmarkies Podcast all over social media and on iTunes and YouTube. And so please check all of that out. We really appreciate it. Thank you so much for joining us. And Merry Christmas in July.
Amen. Thank you. Same to you.
Bye, everyone.
Take care.
All right.